Hi, and welcome to another Average Joe Hockey Report. In this video, we're going to go over who I think are the three winners and the three losers of the 2021 NHL entry draft. We're going to go over the three winners first, and but first we're going to do the honorable mentions. My honorable mentions in the draft are the Buffalo Sabres with the first overall pick and the 12th overall pick the 14th overall pick that they got from the Philadelphia Flyers. And the Columbus Blue Jackets, who got 3 first-round picks, which was the 5th overall pick, the 12th overall pick that they got from the Chicago Blackhawks, and the 25th overall pick that they got from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So anyways, so my number 3 for winners is Arizona Coyotes. Arizona was going into the draft with a forfeited pick and no first-round picks. While it was at the cost of acquiring the contracts of Jay Beagle and Antoine Roussel, and while they traded away Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who could thrive in Vancouver, Ekman-Larsson's stats have been consistently going downhill, and then they acquired the 9th overall pick, which they drafted Dylan Guenther, who's a very promising player for the team. So that's why I say Arizona Coyotes are number 3 for winners. Number 2, Minnesota Wild. Minnesota Wild were fortunate, in my opinion, that the Seattle Kraken did not take Kaapo Kähkönen, and then they traded up to the 20th spot, and with the 20th overall pick, they selected Jesper Wallstedt. While I like Kaapo Kähkönen, Jesper Wallstedt has more potential. And Cam Talbot is getting up there in age, so I think it's a solid pick for the Wild. The Wild then took with the 26th overall pick Carson Lambos from the Winnipeg Ice in the WHL. At one point, Bob McKenzie had Lambos 17th overall for prospects. So the fact that he was able at 26 and the Wild were able to pick him up, good on them. So yeah, that's why I have Minnesota Wild at number 2. Number 1, Detroit Red Wings. Detroit, as it is, had the number 6 overall pick, and they addressed their needs on defense by selecting Simon Edvinsson. However, they also traded up to the 15th spot, and while they selected the goaltender Sebastian Cossa, who while may not have the potential that Jesper Wallstedt has, still had a solid season with the Edmonton Oil Kings, and Steve Yzerman, I think, definitely can see something in Sebastian Cossa. So that's why I say Detroit is number 1 for winners in the draft. And yeah. So we're going to go over the 3 losers. Now, so my honorable mention, well, there was a few teams that I came close to giving them losses, and that's the Chicago Blackhawks and the Vancouver Canucks. The only reason why I'm not giving I came close to giving Chicago Blackhawks as one of the losers because they gave up the 12th overall pick when they added Seth Jones, and Seth Jones' stats have been trending downwards consistently. However, the reason why I'm not giving them the L is because Seth Jones could very well have his career revived in Chicago. Chicago also did have the 32nd overall pick in the first round too. So that's why I'm not giving them the L. And the Vancouver Canucks, I'm not giving them the L because despite giving up the 9th overall pick, they get rid of the contracts of Antoine Roussel and Jay Beagle. And then, of course, Louis Eriksson's not with the team anymore, I think, or whatever. And but I'm not gonna give them the L because they got rid of those contracts, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson could very well thrive in Vancouver because I think the offense in Vancouver is better than in Arizona. So that's why I'm not giving them the L. So let's look at the three losers in the draft. The third, I'd say for number 3 for the third loser is Montreal Canadiens. Now, I'm not saying the Logan Mailloux pick was bad. It's not a bad pick at all. Logan Mailloux is supposed to be a top 15 pick. And I don't want to criticize him for what he's done. He's willing to own up to what he's to all the controversies surrounding him. And he even said he even wants to work on himself, wants to work on being more mature, and he wants to basically better himself so that he doesn't go and get into that situation or whatever. What I don't like about the pick is the statement that Montreal made regarding wanting to work with him in his journey, in his healing journey and whatnot or whatever. It's not that I don't like the fact that they're working with him. The problem is, my problem with that is, where was that with Zack Kassian in 2015? I'll bring up the clip, okay? It wasn't too long ago when CTV News published this on Monday, July 19th. They said, a legal saga involving a former Habs player ended Monday at a Montreal courthouse. Ex-player Zack Kassian was injured in a collision in Notre Dame de Grasse in 2015 while riding as a passenger in his SUV driven by a woman named... I'm not going to say the name. On Monday, a judge acquitted the woman of impaired driving because the prosecution took too long to disclose all of its evidence. The collision marked the end of Kassian's tenure with the Habs. He was intoxicated at the time. Yeah, he was a passenger. Yeah. He was intoxicated at the time of the collision and was forced to enter into addiction treatment. He never played a game with the Habs and was traded to the Edmonton Oilers shortly after the incident. So that's what I don't like about the Mailloux pick is they're willing to work with him, but they weren't willing to work with Kassian 6 years ago when he had his addiction problems and whatnot. Montreal just looks bad in that case. It's just not a good show of character in my opinion. It's just shady. Okay. All right, let's move on. So for my number 2 losers, I'm going to say Ottawa Senators. I mean, I'm not saying Tyler Boucher is not necessarily going to be good or whatever, but Ottawa's got good depth at forward. And especially when it comes to up and coming players too. I thought Ottawa could have selected Jesper Wallstedt because while I don't think Matt Murray is gonna amount to much in Ottawa, he still has a chance to rekindle his magic that he had in Pittsburgh. And while Philip Gustafsson had a good season, Jesper Wallstedt has more potential than Gustafsson. And I watched Gustafsson play, and while he's still young and he needs to work on his rebound control, but yeah, I thought this could have been an opportunity to get Jesper Wallstedt. However, at least they have, Philip Gustafsson in their system, and maybe he's promising, which leads to my number 1 pick, and that's the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers, as far as I know, I don't know who is their up and coming goalie, and then they re-signed Mike Smith for another 2 years, which we all know how much I'm not a fan of Mike Smith. I've said that in previous videos. They could have selected Jesper Wallstedt, but instead traded down to the 22nd overall spot, which, as stated before, Minnesota selected him. So they weren't able to grab Jesper Wallstedt or Sebastian Cossa, and now their goaltending situation is still. So yeah, that's why I have Edmonton as my number one losers. This video is often based on opinion, mostly based on opinion, I would say, and may not have any implication on how these players are going to do and whatnot. So remember, if I'm wrong, don't belittle me, educate me. Take care, everyone, and follow my Instagram page, Average Joe Hockey Report, and my YouTube channel, Marty Tommy, in parentheses, Average Joe Hockey Report.